welcome to this week's book club episode for Star Wars Dark Disciple by Christie Golden. If you're not familiar with the series, we look at this book a couple of chapters at a time, taking in the themes and happenings and really diving deep into what the chapters have to say. If you're interested, go ahead and check the description to see the series from the beginning, but today we're talking about chapters 15, 16, and 17. Where we begin, Voss is waking up from his venom-charged nightmares that had snakes galore, and I find that to be something kind of interesting. When they landed on Dathomir in our last video, we talked about Ventress using the snake and strangling the snake and wanting Voss to do the same, and of course Voss wasn't able to, and now he sees a lot of snakes in his dream, and in fact it's the snake in the real world and the real space that's wrapped around him that throws his mind into dreaming about Ventress, that the physical contact leads his mind there. There seems to be some sort of metaphor with the snake, if not for the dark side in general, maybe for Ventress herself. She is, of course, at this point in time lying to him. Their relationship, for some degree, is real. The feelings between them are real, but she is also intentionally keeping things from him in order to form him how he ought to be in her mind in the dark side in order to face Dooku. Snake could also just be a metaphor for the dark side at large. It is something that betrays, it is something that sneaks up on you as this kind of stealth aggressor. But there's definitely some kind of imagery going on with there. And in fact, it could be how Ventress sees herself at this point in time. Maybe more so than even how the Force sees her, which she is projecting herself to be as this predator. Voss is working through his sleep and venom stupor when Ventress attacks him and they get into a duel. She's really pushing him, they're really playing for keeps. She keeps running off and eventually leads him to her village, the place that she said that he had to be ready to go into the first time they went in together. They do briefly fight in there as well, but ultimately she says that she wants to just show him something while there. Here's where she describes his kind of final test in the dark side, to fight the Sleeper, this ancient creature that lives in the bottom of these pools inside of the city. And there's a lot going on here because the city itself is built within this kind of appreciation of the nature around it. It's not a city imposing its will on the planet, but rather is a part of the planet. If you see what the levels look like in Jedi Fallen Order, I don't think it's supposed to be the same village, but it's something that's very similar. It would look a lot like this. And that's a little surprising to me. Not surprising because I have seen what Night Sister villages look like before, but it's surprising to me because the dark side is so often imposing one's will over the natural. It's about using the Force to do what you want with it. You would think that that would reflect in the Night Sister architecture, but this tells us a little bit about how the Night Sisters are different than the Sith. And in fact, as much as Ventress is claiming to give Voss this Night Sister training, how much she's also just really giving him Sith training on a Night Sister world. Because the Night Sisters use their tricks and conjures for dark purposes and from dark places, but it is in a relationship with the darker parts of an ecosystem versus the Sith, who are about total dominion over anything they're about. That's also reflected in the duel that Ventress and Voss had, because Voss at one point reaches out and grabs her throat and is physically crushing her. And that's a person that he loves, that this dark side is pushing through and kind of coming to the surface and driving his actions, and how that's something that he needs to channel and use, and how Ventress says that's really important because it's something that makes him powerful. And that's ultimately what he'll have to do, because he's going to have to completely subjugate the Sleeper with the dark side. Chapter 16, Ventress begins telling Voss about the Sleeper. Here she seems more like her again. She seems more like herself. She's not the cold, distant teacher that's, forcing him to feel a certain way or forcing him to feel isolated. That part of the test has kind of gone on and passed, and now she's being the person that he cares about again. She's kind of settling back into that place. She talks about how he could use goggles to find the Sleeper, and Voss says that he doesn't want to do it that way. He doesn't really want to cheat. He does ultimately use an aqua breather, but he really wants to do this the right way. He really wants to be able to earn it and not say he fell back on tools. Voss begins training underwater to prepare him for his fight. That very well will and ultimately does lead to being something aquatic. He keeps talking about how he's growing in the Force, and Ventress is making sure he's very aware that he's growing in the dark side, that it is not just the Force. As they have a conversation, he eventually asks her about after, what they do after Dooku. Ventress is very sure that there is no after Dooku at this point, and Voss is saying no. He makes a point of wanting to leave the Jedi to be with her, that ultimately that's something he wants now more than anything. And that can skew his motives for a bit, because it is his greater good duty, his Jedi duty, that he even wants to kill Dooku, and he hasn't gone away from that motivation. So he hasn't completely walked away from the Jedi as in, oh, those windbags don't know what they're talking about. He still believes in that cause, but he thinks that he wants to be with Ventress more than he wants to be a part of that cause once Dooku is done. To really make the point, he takes his Jedi bracer off, which is just like his radio, and he takes it off and crushes it so he now can no longer contact the Jedi Order, really making a point of he's in it for her now. That conversation eventually leads to the beginnings of what could become something that definitely would not have been shown on the Clone Wars, when of course they get a phone call that interrupts what may have happened after. There is now news of where Dooku is, that they know exactly where Dooku's going to be, and this is their chance for an assassination. And Voss wants to move right away. They don't know when they're going to find Dooku again. This is their chance to stop him. Ventress is worried because Voss isn't ready to face Dooku in her mind. He hasn't finished his training. He's not ready to face the sleeper. She's not sure yet if he can fully succumb to the dark side and give himself over. She's also not ready to tell him the terrible truth, again insinuating that she is the one who killed his master, but she's letting him think that Dooku did it to give him a reason to want revenge against Dooku. Really, at the end of the day, Ventress is just too worried that he's too good of a man to really use the dark side. Chapter 17, Voss faces the sleeper. I like the distinction that at some point Ventress calls it the sleeper, not a sleeper, to say that this is really an ancient beast, and you got to be really, this is basically like a Dark Souls boss that he's about to fight. Like, this is something epic and titanic, and something that he's got to be really ready when they go in and face it. And it's something that all Night Sisters, for the most part, faced. They control it with the Force. It removes part of itself. They grind up the part of that self into a smoothie, and that's how you get Night Sister powers, apparently. Ventress says that's not ultimately what she did, that she rejoined her Night Sisters after Sith training through a different ritual, which we saw in the Clone Wars itself. So she's really leading Voss into something that she never had to do on her own, and there's a couple different implications to that. On the one hand, it makes me wonder if there's not some sort of latent thing going on with Ventress about whether or not she really counted as a sister among her sisters. Certainly she misses them, certainly she felt like a family, but she already says that she doesn't know the burial rites. She didn't do this particular rite. She's basically trying to teach Voss about her culture, maybe in a way to fill that void within herself, where she never really filled the culture in the way that she understood it, or in the way that her sisters did. But it's also just that Voss is walking this Night Sister walk, that of the two of them, he's the least Night Sisterly, and so he's just kind of doing something different, but he's trying to pay honor in respects to the path they walked. As Voss goes to face the sleeper, he's not sure if Ventress would actually come in to help him in the end if he needed it, and at first he doesn't think he's going to find out that he actually gains control of the sleeper pretty easily, almost too easily, and that's when Ventress throws him for a loop. She asks him to kill the beast instead of forcing the beast to maim itself. Voss does not want to do this. He does not want to destroy a singularity of a species. He panics a little bit, and that panic causes him to lose control, and the sleeper almost destroys him in turn before Voss is able to regain the power he had over it. And here is Voss's big moral conundrum. Ventress is basically telling him that something inside him has to break. He has to let go of these reservations that he has as a Jedi if he's going to face Dooku. That Dooku is a monster that's not going to give him any kind of mercy or quarter, and he needs to be ready. That assassination is different than facing him fairly on a battlefield. And Voss recognizes that too, and how he's ultimately going to have to kill this creature, this innocent creature, so that he could be able to kill Dooku. Now, it is different. Dooku is not an innocent creature, even if you're killing him in cold blood. He's not completely without fault in the situation, and is Dooku ever truly vulnerable? But this is something that Voss is going to have to face and deal with, and so he brings himself to that point. He knows that he has to do this, and so he brings himself to the place where he can kill the sleeper. And again, I kind of wonder what Ventress is going through with this. Does she know the road she's leading him on? She didn't have to walk this road herself. She's trying to push him to this point of the dark side, but she's at that point of the dark side and it didn't help her either. So how does she know that that's what he needs to do? At what level is Ventress enabling herself? I don't think she's out to hurt Voss in any way. I do think their feelings are genuine, but Ventress, there's no reason to think Ventress has it any more figured out than anyone else. And that's kind of where we're left at here. After Voss kills the sleeper, he has a whole gamut of emotions. Yes, he has the guilt of killing this innocent life, but he also has the euphoria of the power that just went through him and the realization that he wants to do it again, that this corruptive part of the dark side has come into him, and the ramifications that has for him going forward. Ventress is, of course, aware of these feelings and has felt them herself, and she says it's that struggle to want that euphoria, to get that euphoria, that power surge, but also to maintain control over it, and that's what he's going to need to kill Dooku. And they leave it there, just knowing that together they're going to face Dooku and hopefully defeat him as a team. So I guess really where I'm left with these chapters is kind of what I've already discussed as we've gone through, is just where is Ventress mentally? We're not necessarily getting a lot of that in the narrative. We're getting some, obviously, but we're getting her guilt and her desire to not have Voss know the truth just yet about what happened with his master. I think that there's a lot Ventress doesn't know about herself, and because Ventress doesn't know it about herself, it's not getting spelled out in the book. And I'm really excited to see where this goes with her in the next couple of chapters, just how much of this is truly necessary. And also, we're going to Dooku, and we're only about halfway through the book, so obviously some things are about to go down and some things are about to be afoot. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'd love talking to you guys. For next week, we're just going to do 2 chapters. We're going to do chapters 18 and 19. This is largely because I'm juggling reading the High Republic stuff while doing this book, and I don't want to get too distracted. So we'll do chapters 18 and 19 for next week. If you're not already, please follow us on all the socials, and I'll talk to you guys next week.